Hello everyone, my name is Brian and welcome to my first MLB The Show 25 video. In this video, I'll be walking you through my Diamond Dynasty settings and explaining why I like them, as well as addressing some of the new settings that SDS has implemented this year. If you're here and wondering, who the heck is this guy? I get it, I know. I'm nobody. I've been playing this game since 2016, so I'm super familiar with all the settings and how things work in Diamond Dynasty, so I thought I'd share my knowledge with everyone else, even though settings are mostly preferential in the end anyway. But I find that these things help me progress through the game faster, and I find a little bit more joy while playing the game because of these settings. So let's go ahead and take a look right away. Under gameplay, I'm going to start us off in camera, because one of the questions I see asked most of streamers online is what hitting view or pitching view do you use? So let's take a look at that first, and what I like to use is Strike Zone 2. I find that I've been the most successful in my hitting with this hitting view. It gives me the best view of the pitches as they come in. As you can see here, you can see the trajectory of the ball pretty well, and over time when you watch enough pitches, you get to understand what each pitch is going to do and how people are going to pitch to you from this view. As for pitching, I stick with a similar but much wider view with offset. I do this because I like to see the whole batter while I'm pitching, and because I prefer to keep my eyes used to a similar view for watching pitches as they come in. Once you start recognizing pitches better, the better you'll hit. Alright, moving on, let's take a look at the control settings. Before I start, I will say that the hitting, pitching, and throwing interfaces that I've chosen here are chosen specifically because they are the most accurate options in the game. The other settings in the game will leave you at the mercy of your player's attributes and just cause more headaches later on. For me, I can live with my own mistakes, so I want the most control that the game will allow me to have versus letting the game decide what's going to happen for me. Alright, with that out of the way, let's start at the top with hitting. You'll want to use zone for the hitting interface, which means you'll use the left analog stick to move your plate coverage indicator, or PCI, to the ball as the pitch comes in. And that, like I said, that is the most accurate way to hit the ball in this game. For swing input, you'll want to use buttons, or at least that's what I prefer. I just find it to be easier this way because you're just only going to hit one button to swing the ball or swing the bat. Most of the time, actually I would say 99% of the time, you're going to use the X button to swing. Just the normal swing. There are certain situations that might come up where you'll want to make more contact, and so you'll use the contact button, circle, or if you really want to sell out for a pitch, you think you're getting a fastball in a specific spot of the zone and you really want to swing for power, go ahead and use square. But I will warn you that those things do come with some penalties. So like for square, for example, if you use that, your PCI will be smaller when you use that button because you are sacrificing contact for power. So the PCI becomes smaller when you're trying to hit the ball versus contact, which will actually make it a little bit larger in the end. Not a whole lot, but it is something that is more helpful for you to make contact with the ball if you use contact for swing. I found recently that the circle is very useful on GOAT difficulty. I played a couple games in GOAT difficulty in Diamond Quest just to try it out, and more often than not, I was way late on every fastball using X. But for some reason, when I use circle, it just, that little extra bit of the PCI, because it is teeny on GOAT. I'm telling you, it's so small on GOAT difficulty, but just using circle, that adding a little bit extra layer of contact there allowed me to get a couple hits and string some stuff together. So I found more success with circle on GOAT difficulty. So we'll see. I mean, that'll take a lot of practice. I know not everyone is going to be really good at that difficulty, especially because it's brand new this year. Anyway, like I said, you're going to want to use X for most of the time, and situationally, you can use square or circle. Now let's take a look at a new PCI feature in the game this year. So if we go down to PCI Anchor, what they've done is you can now preset your anchor for every single at-bat in the game. And I like this turned on because most of the time I'm going to keep my PCI at the top center. Occasionally I'll move my PCI on the inside part of the zone when I'm playing online, because I tend to find that most people try to bust you in with fastballs and sinkers. So I may move it around a lot then, but for now, I like everything to start at the top center. And the reason for that is because I also know that I like to chase high fastballs. So I want to make sure that I am able to get my PCI up to the top of the zone to hit those fastballs and not worry about being late on it. Of course, you can always turn this preset off if you want, or you can set it to free, which will allow you to set your PCI anchor before every at-bat. Next, let's look at the PCI itself. So there's a multitude of settings that you have. You have circles, diamonds, altitude, or the bat. I like to keep mine as minimal as possible so I can focus on the ball coming into the zone. So what that looks like for me is I choose the bat PCI with nothing else around it. I find that I would fixate on the zones, which is like the inner and the outer PCI zones, which show your contact region as well as your vision region. Like my brain would just focus on those things and make me feel like I have to overcompensate for what my player's attributes are when I'm hitting the ball. Now, I know that SDS has said that the PCI is not indicative of the sweet spot of a bat or whatever, especially with the bat icon, but it kind of tricks my brain into thinking that when I use just the bat PCI. Like I feel like that is, I'm just trying to aim my bat to the ball, and it makes me feel like my swings are more natural and fluid as I play in the game. So that's why I like the bat PCI with nothing else. Again, it's minimal and I can just focus solely on that part of the zone where I want to go and hit that ball. I like to keep my color at cyan. I just think cyan's a nice color, honestly. You could have green, magenta, ocean, orange. I did use ocean for a while, but then I found that it was blending in with some of the walls in the back. So yeah, cyan, and I like it at 70%, which I believe is the default. I also don't have my PCI fade out. I find that distracting as well if it's fading in and out or whatever. For base running, I prefer to use analog select. That is the setting where you can use the left stick to move in the direction of the base runner that you want to move, and then tap each corresponding button for whatever base you want them to go to. You can also use L1 and R1 to control all runners on the base, but I find that you will want to control individual runners. So I find this is the easiest way to do that and the best way to do that. I find the most success with this setting. For player locked base running interface here, they introduced a directional analog, and I tried that on the first day doing some of the tutorial moments, and I really did not like it. I'm sure over time I could get used to it. I mean, this allows you to push the left stick in any direction that you want to run, but what I found is that it was just much easier for my brain to function if I'm just going up to advance and down to return to a base. Easy peasy, right? All right, moving on to pitching. Again, the most accurate pitching interface here is going to be pinpoint, and that's why I'm using pinpoint, because when you see your par regions, and if you don't know what the par region is, that is the little black circle that is around the baseball indicator or baseball marker. That tells you if you throw a perfect pitch, that's where your ball is going to end up. So if you see in some of these examples here, the par region is going to be larger or smaller depending on what interface you're using. So as you see with the other options that are on the screen here, you want to give yourself the best opportunity to land your pitches exactly where you want them to go. And additionally, for that pitching ball marker, I find the chevron to be the most useful of the marker icons here. I used to use the pitch trail, which is nice. It gives you a good long trail of showing you what the pitch is going to do. But I prefer the chevron because it's going to tell you mostly where the pitch is going to land. So with those arrows, I can dot the corners and the edges of the zone a little bit better while I'm pitching. Of course, that all depends on your pinpoint input, which I will admit is not perfect. Looking at fielding now, again, button accuracy is going to be the most accurate way to throw the ball to any base. Otherwise, again, like if you just do buttons or analog, you're going to be at the mercy of your player's attributes. Button accuracy is the little meter that you see over the top of your player when you're throwing the ball. If you get it into the green, good throw. In the red, bad throw. It's just very simple. The other thing I like about it, this year they introduced a new sort of blue region to the meter, especially for outfield throws and for the cutoff throws to home or to another base. What that is if you landed in that blue area, it's sort of like a high risk, high reward sort of thing there. So if you landed in the blue area, you're going to have the most accurate throw to a base, and that the fielder will get into a better position to make a tag on the runner and get that out. Now, of course, if you go too far, you're in the red and you're going to throw the ball away, or it's not going to be a very accurate throw. So far for the outfield, I haven't seen any egregiously bad throws where my fielders are running off and trying to catch this ball that is nowhere near them. It is worse in the infield, but then that's what we're going to talk about next. If you do miss out on that throw, you have turn on throw canceling. Then that'll allow you to cancel that throw and instead of giving up an extra base because you sailed the ball into the stands or the dugout, you can cancel it out. Just let that guy have that base. No big deal. You move on. You know, it's like you already made the error. Let's not make it worse. So I definitely recommend turning on throw canceling. Lastly, in the bottom here of the control settings, haptic vibrations, turn those off. I understand what they're there for. It's to add a little bit of like realism and intensity to the game. I'm already nervous and anxious if I'm in that kind of a moment. I don't need to be reminded of it while I'm playing the game. So I turn it off. Plus, it allows your battery life to last a little bit longer with your controller. Now let's take a look at general settings here. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit past the gameplay style and hitting difficulty. That's all preferential of how you want to play. But I will say that if you're playing online, if you're playing Diamond Dynasty, most games you're going to play are going to be on All-Star or better. So I recommend keeping your hitting difficulty at All-Star for offline stuff. We're going to go down to the new decisions section here where you have auto bullpen warm-up. This is new this year, and I think this is an incredible change so far. SDS lowered the pause timer in online games, and what they did to help that is they added auto bullpen warm-up, so you no longer have to fumble through the menus to try to warm up pitchers and then like make substitutions all at once and all these things. So now you can just auto warm up your bullpen arms and hit the right button on the D-pad, and that'll pull up your bullpen menu, pick your pitcher, put them in the game, easy peasy, done. The other thing below that though, in-game pitcher warm-up, for whatever reason they have this defaulted to on. I turn that off because what that does is when you bring in a pitcher, it's going to ask you to throw 5 more warm-up pitches if you want to. I'm all about saving yourself button clicks. Turn it off. You don't need to do it. If you're already auto warming up the pitcher, why do you want to warm him up some more, right? The other thing is auto defensive shift. I turned that off as well. In this game, if you're playing against someone online, the shift is kind of pointless because those people do not have the same tendencies as your player's card that they're using, right? The other thing down here under rules, I keep all my umpire stuff as perfect, just save my sanity. One thing though that I find is the most important thing to talk about here is something that people don't really necessarily know. I see it, I don't see anyone really talking about it, and I'm not sure how many people really do know about this setting here. This check swing appeals, if you turn it off, not only does it turn off for offline games, it also turns it off for online games. So if you check swing, you don't have to appeal to first or third base to get their strike call or ball call or whatever, right? So it just saves you time while you're playing the game. You get your check swing, you can move on faster and keep going. The other thing I find is that with that animation, it always just makes me so angry. I'm like, what are you looking at, right? So if I turn it off, the player I'm playing is already throwing the next pitch. I don't have time to complain. It's a strike, whatever. We move on, let's hit the next pitch. The other thing on here that I will want to talk about, and the last thing on here I want to talk about under miscellaneous, quick CPU pitching. This is very important to me because we're grinding a lot of conquest games, mini seasons, things like that offline. You don't want to be waiting so long in between pitches. And if there's a moment where I'm like, I need to maybe put a pinch hitter in and he's already coming in or like coming set, you can just go ahead and hit down on the D-pad, call timeout, and then pull up your substitution menu with the left D-pad button and put in a new pinch hitter, make a substitution that way. So yeah, I recommend putting on quick CPU pitching to progress faster through your offline games for sure. All right, if we back out a bit and go to the presentation tab here, the presentation mode here is going to be fast play. That's what I choose. Again, I'm all about quickness and efficiency while playing these games. And that's pretty much what this section is going to be all about. So fast play will speed up the game. It skips most of the animations and presentations in the game. Underneath that, you have pitch selection cameras. I don't like that. I think it's a nice idea to have like a different view while you're choosing your pitch. But to be honest, while I'm choosing my pitch, I want to be looking at the zone. I want to choose my pitch and choose right away where I want to throw that ball. I don't need to have another view distracting me and taking me out of my focus of what I want to do in the game, which is get outs, right? So I turn that off, and that is something that I definitely recommend because it hurts my brain when I'm clicking through and trying to get, like I'm choosing my pitch and then clicking through another camera view and then trying to figure out where I want to go in the zone. Why bother? Just let me see the zone, pick the pitch. And lastly, we'll turn off batter walk-ups because again, we're all about efficiency and saving time and playing these games as fast as possible. So there you have it. That is a look at my settings for Diamond Dynasty for playing online and offline. As always, if you appreciate the tips in this video, feel free to leave a like on the video as well as a comment down below. Share with us what other tips that you guys might have to help you play the game and enjoy the game better, as well as make the game go quicker for you. Maybe I missed something, who knows? Either way, be on the lookout for future videos from me. I've got one on Conquest coming up and how to do that real fast. In the meantime, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you guys. I hope Otani's in your next pack, and I'll see you later.